Hey there, Jake Miller here from the Educational Duct Tape Podcast, and today I'm going to talk about one great option for review and formative assessment in your class, which is the tool Quizizz. I use Quizizz a lot with my students to review concepts and vocabulary. Other tools I use when I want to do more in-depth formative assessments and things like that, but this is definitely one that belongs in my toolbox, and I think it might belong in yours. There are a lot of other options out there. Quizizz offers some of the most basic question types, like multiple choice, but it also adds in the ability to do checkbox answers, which means multiple select out of a multiple choice, and fill in the blank answers, and polls, and open-ended questions too. And I'll show you all of those in this video. You could also launch your Quizizz in a synchronous game mode, which is what I'll do in the second video in this series, is show how it works when we run it with students. And you can also launch it asynchronously for students to do as a homework assignment or just as free practice. And that's what I'll show you in the third video in this series. While all these things go on, I'll show you in the second and third video that the teachers can see the students' progress and their rankings as they go through it. Students can also see their score as they go unless you turn that off, and I'll show you that in videos 2 and 3 as well. Students typically progress through the questions at their own rate, which I'll show you in video 2, but it is possible for the teacher to lead the pace as the students go through it. You can also have speed-based scoring turned on or off, meaning the faster they answer, the more points they get. If you want to turn that off, that's an option, and I will talk about that in video 2 mostly when I talk about how to launch it. And I think we talked about all that. Also in video 3, we'll talk about how students can do flashcards when they're doing it asynchronously. Now, last, before we dive into it, Quizizz is a freemium tool, so there's a free and paid version. In this version, I'll be using the free version, but I'll also point out some of the things that are premium. I think the free version is enough for most teachers. You'll see some of the reasoning that you might want to go premium here. Their premium version is fairly priced, and you would not be crazy to go out and pay for it if you end up liking what it has available. And I just know myself as a teacher, there's only so many things that either I could pay for or I could ask my school to pay for. We can nickel and dime ourselves into debt if we pay for all the tools that are great for our classrooms. I think the free version is good enough. I do think there's some benefits to the paid version, but I'll get to both of them in this video. So the first thing I see once I sign into my Quizizz account and I go to the home page is I see this admin screen that predicts some quizzes that I might want to use in my class. Now, if I were on my regular school account, I would see a whole bunch of science quizzes here because I teach science, and it's really great because I could just really quickly grab a quiz to use with my students. I don't tend to do that often because I like to create my own content, but you can, instead of just launching the quizzes you see in here, you can copy them to your own account and then modify them too. So that is something I have done where I know I'm giving a quiz on a certain topic. I'll grab somebody else's. I'll go in and take questions out, add questions in, modify the wording of questions and things like that. That's an option there for you too. And you could find those quizzes by searching in the search bar, by looking at the ones that are recommended for you, or scrolling down to them organized by content area. Now, these are not like specially made quizzes that Quizizz made for students and think are the perfect quizzes. It's just quizzes that have been made by teachers like you or me that are public and have had enough uses that they, the algorithm bumped them up here on your screen and is showing them to you based on maybe your history of what you've looked at or maybe just how commonly used they are by other teachers. You'll notice that some of these say that they are super, and that's the paid version of Quizizz, and that means that has paid content in that. So I'm not going to be able to use that particular quiz because I'm in a free account, and you'll see what things are probably included in there here in a moment. Notice that some of them say quiz and some of them say lesson. In this video, I'm just going to do quizzes. Okay. In video 4 that I do on Quizizz, I think it'll be video 4, maybe it'll be video 5. I will go over the lesson mode in Quizizz. That's something I'll cover in the future. So we won't be covering that in this video. But let's make a quiz. So instead of using one of these, I'm going to go ahead and click create. You see, I see those two options, quiz or lesson. I'm going to do quiz at this point in time. It'll ask me to name my quiz to begin with. So I'm going to name this @JakeMillerTech's Taco Quiz. I love to talk about tacos, so we're going to talk about tacos here. And then I have to pick a subject for with it, so I'm going to click fun, and I'm going to click next. Once you get in here, you see there's 6 different types of questions that you can add here. But before we do that, I don't want you to miss what's up at the bottom. The teleport questions option lets me grab questions from other people's quiz. So instead of taking their whole quiz, I could just go in there and grab certain questions from them. So I'm going to type taco in here. You see it automatically searched by what it predicted based on the name of my quiz, which is handy too. I'm going to go to this first one and I'm going to grab this first question from them. Now, as I add it, you're going to notice that it's not perfect. There's no capitalization, there's no punctuation, and there's a spelling error in there. And that's okay because I can fix it. Notice I can grab a bunch at a time if I want, or go back and handle getting this one ready, and then maybe go back and teleport more in later. Okay, so let's edit this question. Notice, first of all, there's the question, 4 answer choices. One has a green circle next to it because it's the correct one, but we've got some fixing to do in this one. One thing I like in here is that it gives me a preview of what this is going to look like for the students, so I can see what the student screen is going to look like. It'll look a little different whether they're on a Chromebook or an iPad like this one kind of looks like, but it gives you a general idea of what this will look like for the student. So I'm going to click into the question space, capitalize it, and add a question at the end here, question mark at the end here. I'm going to come down here to the one that says tomato, and I'm going to fix that so it's spelled correctly. Okay, and now I'm happy with my answers. Notice the one that says the meat has a check mark by it. And you know what? A lot of people don't like their tacos with meat. Maybe they're vegetarian or vegan. So I'll say, what is typically the main ingredient in a taco? And you can see I can modify these as much as I want to. Also notice in the answer options, I do have some formatting. I can italicize parts of it. I can underline parts of it. I can also change the color of parts of the text. I can add subscripts and superscripts, as well as world language teachers, you rejoice, I can add in a lot of different symbols. Now, not just tildes and accent marks and things like that. I go in there, I see all kinds of, I don't know why the regular letters are in there, but I could see fractions. I could see a variety of letter types. I could see the Greek alphabet. I could see currency symbols. I could see a lot of different emojis. I could see math symbols and things like that. So just about any symbol you need is in here in this area. I don't need any of those things, so I'm going to leave this as is. Down at the bottom here, you see 2 things that are premium version tools. So this is one of my first times seeing what the premium version would give me. In the premium version, I could add an explanation to my answer. In other words, I could explain to the students why the correct answer is correct. Can't do it in the free version, but you can in the super version. That's what this little lightning bolt means here. Underneath that, I could tag topics by standards, but that's also in the super version or the premium version. Again, I use the free version. I'm comfortable with giving these 2 things up, but they are nice features if you feel that they warrant you or your school paying for you having access to them. Below that, I could change the amount of time the students are given. Now, you can also, when you administer your quiz or your game or however you're using it, you can administer it with the timer turned off. So even though you set a timer here, you could then turn the timer off in its entirety as you're actually using it. But it defaults for a multiple choice to 30 seconds, and I could change it to all these intervals up to 15 minutes. I like to figure out how long I think it's going to take and then pick the option above it. So this should probably take 20 seconds. I'm going to stick with 30 seconds to give them then. We give them a little extra time there. Okay, and then I click save, and that question is in my quiz for me now. Now let's actually create one of our own. So I'm going to go down here and click multiple choice. I could also do this from up here on the new question button, but I'm going to click multiple choice. Let's write a question here, and let's say my question is, where did tacos most likely originate? Did a little bit of research, and it looks like they're not sure, but they think it was probably Mexico. The indications are Mexico, and that's what I would have guessed as well. So I'll give these 3 options. Now, I only want to give 3 options for this one. Maybe in another question I'll use 4. Maybe sometimes I'll even add an answer option and use 5. In this one, I only want 3, so I'm going to delete that one out. And now you can see over on the right here, I only see 3 options. And then I've got to tell it which one's correct, which is Mexico here. Now, I typically make my correct answer the first one. You might be like, well, Jake, doesn't that mean your kids always know the correct answer? No, when you administer the quiz, you could select for it to randomize the answer choices. So I always make sure I've turned that turned on so I don't have to worry about randomizing it myself. I always just leave the correct answer first. Below there, I cannot add an answer explanation or tag topics. I can change the time if I want to. I feel like I need to in this situation, and I click save. Next, let's talk about the media that we can add into our multiple choice question. So when I click multiple choice, you see up here by the question prompt itself, there are 4 options there. Adding in math equations, adding in images, adding in audio, and adding in video. Now, audio and video, spoiler alert, are in the premium version. So we cannot add in audio, which would be nice for Universal Design for Learning, let you read the question to your students, or maybe a world language teacher. You could ask a question in the language that you're teaching and have the kids respond with maybe what you said using English, but that's a paid feature. Video would let you pull in things from YouTube, but again, paid feature. And again, their paid version is fairly priced. You wouldn't be crazy if you went out and got it, but here in this video, I'm going to focus on what we could do just in the free version. So let's talk about images first. So let's say I want them to identify something out of an image. So I'm going to jump over to this image on Unsplash, which is one of my favorite sites for getting free high resolution photos that we could use anywhere. I'm going to click on it and click copy image address. I'm going to jump back over here to Quizizz, and I could paste that address in. Note, I can also upload my own image in this block up here too. And my question is going to be, what is this guy squeezing on these tacos? I'm going to say lime, and I have to use the tab key to get down to the next one. Lemon, chocolate sauce, cheese. And the correct answer is lime. And again, I love that it previews what it's going to look like for me over there on the right. Go ahead and click save that. Now I can also make my answer choices images. So let's try that out too. So I'm going to say, which one of these shows a taco? Okay, and I'm going to get, oops, I needed that one. I'm going to get this image of a taco. One thing you'll notice as I do this is I don't have the option to add text and images into one answer choice. I could have some of my answer choices be text and some of my answer choices be images, but they can't be in one choice be text and image. So they don't all have to be images, but they can't be an image and text within the same choice. I love that it shows me over on the right what this is going to look like. And again, I don't have to have 4 options. I could have more, I could have less, as long as I have at least 2. Let's go ahead and save that. Oh, I've got to select the correct one. I like that it reminds me. That one's the taco. Click save. Okay, and there's my preview of it as well. Okay, so now we've talked about how to do multiple choice questions without images, with images in the prompt, with images in the answer choices. Now let's talk about math typing. So let's say I start a new multiple choice question, and I say, what is the name for this equation? And I'm going to put in some math type, and you can see I've got basic math, which this goes beyond basic math too, Greek symbols, and advanced stuff over here too, like some logic text and things like that. But I'm going to put in the quadratic formula, which is -b. I have to double check it because you guys are going to make fun of me if I get it wrong in here. I'm going to start by making it a fraction, and I'm going to say -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and I'm going to insert it right into there. Okay, notice I can have text and the equation within the same answer space, and I can move them around and format what they're going to look like. So I'd like to have the question first, and then I'd also like there to be more space between them. So I'm just going to click enter in there. Could even hit enter in there twice, and that's what that looks like there. And then I can give my kids the answer choices. Note that in the answer choices, I can also use the same math equation area, okay? Or if I just need exponents, there is normally, when you don't have the math equation thing turned on, there's normally the option to turn on that superscript when you start typing. So if I type in, I can't get it now because I have the math equation typed in there, but we saw it earlier how you can just do superscript and subscript without using actual math typing. Okay, so is this the quadratic formula, or is this the quadratic equation, or is this the Pythagorean theorem? Okay, that is the quadratic formula. So it's all ready to go for me now, and I click save. And again, I could also have math in those answer choices there. So that's kind of all the stuff to do with multiple choice there. Let's next look at checkboxes. Checkboxes is pretty much the same thing, and you can tell it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference here is that it lets the students choose more than one answer. So I'm going to say, which of the following are common ingredients in a taco? And I'm going to say meat, cheese, salsa, and M&Ms. And I'm going to select all of my correct answers, so the students will be selected to get all of them correct. And we can see what it looks like for them over on the right. It's clear because those checkboxes are there that they have to select more than one, and then click submit. And you could have checkbox with just one selected to force the kids to think about, do all of these belong? Notice by default, it made this out of 45 seconds rather than 30, and I can also make it longer if I want to myself. Go ahead and click save on that. So that is a checkbox question. Let's next look at fill in the blank questions. I don't use these very often because it kind of punishes kids that don't spell things right, and it's not something that I'm super concerned about, but it is an option that's available in here. So I'm going to say, what is this quiz mostly about? And my answer is tacos, or maybe I think that some of the kids will spell it like that, or maybe I think that some of the kids will rate it like that. So any of those answers are going to be correct, and I can add more alternatives if I want to. Notice in the paid version, I could turn on contains, so that maybe if a kid writes, this is mostly about tacos, and they write a whole sentence, it's going to mark it as correct because it has tacos in it. Okay, or if I'm doing some math stuff, I can have it equaling a certain number when they type it in. Okay, but those are premium options. So that looks good. Notice it made it at 60 seconds, but again, I could make it longer if I want to. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now I've got my fill in the blank question in there. So let's next look at poll questions. Now, poll questions look a lot like multiple choice questions as well, except there's no correct answer here. They could choose whatever they want to. Now, there's a message that normally pops up. It's gone from me because I've dismissed it, that tells us that poll questions are ungraded, number one, and are automatically marked as correct. So it's going to skew your students' scores in the positive direction because it's going to call these correct. I personally don't mind that in my classroom, but you might want to keep that in mind. I do like to ask questions like, how confident were you on this quiz? How did you feel about this content? Do you feel like you need to practice this more? I might ask them some questions about how ready they are to move forward or how confident they feel on it. But again, it's going to mark it as a correct answer, and I cannot go in there and change whether or not it's correct or incorrect. But I'm going to say, what is your favorite taco shell type? And I'll say hard corn, soft corn, or soft flour. We'll just leave it at 3 for now. And I'm going to delete this third one down here at the bottom. Notice I could let them choose multiple things if I want to. That's an option you have there too. And go ahead and save. So that's a poll question here. And again, it shows me here there's no correct answer. So we did multiple choice, checkbox, fill in the blank, and poll. The fifth and final question type is open-ended. Just like with polls, it does not grade it for you. It automatically marks it as correct. And unfortunately, at this time, unless I'm mistaken, there's no way in Quizizz to grade your open-ended questions. You can't go in there and mark some of them correct or incorrect. You could see their answers, but you can't grade them within Quizizz. So it is a nice way to assess them, but just know that it's not going to be great for that recording of data of how they performed on it. It's going to say they're correct, and you can't change that. Okay, you could then type it somewhere else, maybe in your grade book or something, that they were correct, but there's nothing you do here about that. Okay, so I'm going to say, describe your favorite taco. And notice it just gives them a pretty generic text box here to type their answer in. As far as I know, the amount of text they could type in there is unlimited. Notice there's no formatting options, but it does allow them to type in an answer over there. And again, it's going to automatically mark it as correct, and there's nothing you could do as the teacher to change it to be marked as incorrect. Go click save on that. And there we go. This is my quiz here. A couple more things I have to do before I wrap it up completely. Let's say these are all the questions I want to add. Over here on the bottom right, we can see my quiz quality score is 5 out of 10. Just Quizz's way of letting you know that there's 2 things that they want you to do, which are adding a quiz image and adding grades. We'll do those here in a second, and then it's going to say I have a quiz quality score of 10 out of 10 here. Above there, it talks about adaptive learning. This is a really cool feature they just recently added, which is going to give kids a subset of questions out of this quiz based on their performance to make sure that copying doesn't happen and to make sure that everybody's getting an experience that relates to the practice that they need rather than just repeating the same thing over and over again. I probably would not use this with this quiz because there's only 9 questions in it, but if I had a bigger set of questions, like maybe if I had a Quizizz for the whole year of content, then I could use adaptive learning and just have each kid answer 10 every time I do it, and it'll give them 10 different ones than they've had before, or maybe some that they've struggled on. I'm not going to use it here, but it is a nice feature. Up above is the option to import questions from a spreadsheet. I'm going to do a video on how this works because it is a really nice feature to be able to have. You can see it's easy to make your multiple choice questions here in Quizizz, but it's easier in a spreadsheet, at least in my opinion. I'm not going to cover it in this video, but in the future, I will do a video like that. Above here, I see that topic I selected for it, and it wants me to add grades to this here. So let's go ahead and add some grades. Okay, so I'm going to say this one is for anybody from kindergarten all the way up to professional development. Everybody can answer questions about tacos, right? And then I've got to decide, do I want it to be public or not? I could choose public or private but visible to me. I normally go with private. The downside of that is if I want colleagues to be able to use it, then it's going to be hard to get that link to them, but I'll use it as private here. Okay, and I'm going to go and click save. Oh, it wants me to add a quiz image. So if I want to, I can also add an image that appears next to it. It's not essential though. I'm going to go ahead and click publish. And now it gives me a little bit of a preview of what it looks like. Notice that it's telling me I've got public link access turned off. I can set it so that anybody in my school could see it, but again, this is for a paid plan. So if you want to make it so that anybody in your school district can use it, then you'll need a premium plan for that. And it's a nice feature, especially if you want some like common assessments too. Down below here, I could invite other specific teachers. So again, if I have a department colleague who teaches the same thing, or maybe a special education teacher, intervention specialist who works with my students, or a tutor who works with my students, or a speech and language pathologist who works with my students, or whoever it might be, I can give them access to it too so they get practice with kids. That is an option I use pretty often. Click the X to get out of it, and now I see it here in the Explore setting. I can come back in and edit this if I want to, but this quiz is now ready to go. Okay, in the next video, we'll talk about how to do a live quiz with this, and in the following video after that, we'll talk about how to run this as a homework assignment, and I'll use this same exact quiz for doing that. So I'd recommend you click on the second video option so you can go right into it and see how I use this quiz with my students.